Have you ever noticed that there's a correlation between the amount something has cost you and the value you place on it? Let me give you an example. I own two pairs of shoes that are almost exactly the same, and I've been looking for this style for a long time. And then one day I was walking through a department store and I saw a pair, almost exactly what I wanted, hanging from a rack as if they were like a clearance item. So I went up to take a look at them and I looked at the price tag and I noticed that they were selling them for $20. And instead of being excited about what a great find this was, my initial reaction was, well, what's wrong with them? Is this some kind of cheap knockoff of what I've been looking for? But I went ahead and bought them anyways because it's only 20 bucks, right? But I couldn't escape this feeling like I had bought something that was cheap and unworthy. So after using the shoes for a few weeks, I was really happy with them and I couldn't believe how well they were holding up and they were comfortable. So I decided to go back to the store and buy like 5 pairs or a lifetime supply. But when I got back, I noticed that they were selling them for $80 now instead of the $20 that I had got them for. So that I couldn't really make sense of. Was it a case where someone had maybe mislabeled them, or there was just a really extreme, unheard of sale that was going on? I didn't get my answer to that, but I decided to just get another one of the $80 pair, but in just a slightly different style, but almost exactly the same. Now, since then, I've noticed something kind of strange. Of the 2 pairs of shoes, I've been really diligent in taking care of the $80 ones, but the $20 ones, not so much. I wore them camping this year and got caught in a rainstorm. I dropped this big juicy piece of watermelon on it like last week. And then I wore them out to my aunt and uncle's farm recently for a visit. And if you've never been to a farm before, there's a lot of pooping that goes on there. The reason for this disparity is kind of obvious to me. Because the one pair only cost me $20, I've carried this unshakable sense that they're only worth $20. Even though I later on found out that they were actually worth $80, I still have this ingrained lack of appreciation based on how much they cost me. Another example I can share from my professional experience. I run a branding company that offers services like web design and graphic design and digital marketing. And as you might guess, we have a bit of a niche within the church, so we offer these services to churches and ministries a lot. And because we're so passionate about what we do and how it integrates within the mission of the church, we sometimes offer those services for free. After doing this several times, we started to notice a problem. Many of the recipients of our free services didn't seem to appreciate the value of what they were getting. So for example, we might design a website for somebody worth upwards of like $10,000 with state-of-the-art features that would go unused and neglected. At first, I couldn't figure out why that was happening, but then I started to realize that the reason they didn't appreciate its value was because they hadn't invested themselves in it. If they had actually spent $10,000 on a website like that, then they would have made sure that they were using it properly and understanding it so that that $10,000 didn't go to waste. The irony is that we thought in giving them these essential services for free, we were helping them out. But what actually happened was that we were setting them up for failure. I think that stands as a powerful analogy for why we've seen such a dramatic decline of Christianity in Western culture. The past 50 years could be characterized by a relaxation in the practices and teachings of the faith by its leaders. There are some striking examples of this, especially in mainline Protestantism, where we've seen complete reversals of moral teachings. And while that hasn't happened in the Catholic Church, which is my affiliation with respect to the official teachings, we have seen a real apathy and a disregard towards the practices and disciplines of the faith. So, for example, in Canada, we used to be expected to go to Mass for important feast days of the liturgical calendar, but they've since just moved those over to the nearest Sunday. A lot of churches don't even have kneelers anymore, and the ones that do, sometimes people aren't expected to kneel at all because, I don't know, it's too uncomfortable. But wasn't that kind of the point? And then during Lent, we used to be encouraged to fast, but now they just tell us, well, just do something nice for somebody. I can appreciate the instincts behind this. I think a lot of well-intentioned pastors thought that aspects of the faith were too hard for people to follow. So if we compromise and accommodate, then we will have a better shot at retaining members. But what I think it actually did was that it reduced the cost of what it means to be a Christian. So the result has been a startling decline in affiliation and practice of the faith. And in some places in Europe, it's even worse. They're actually predicting the complete disappearance of denominations that are hundreds of years old. My investment in the practice of my faith has cost me a lot, and it's changed me in undeniable ways. So much so that it would be almost impossible for me to walk away from, because I'd have to admit that it was all for nothing. But if I hadn't invested myself in it in such dramatic ways, I could probably walk away from it fairly casually without much concern. There are a lot of examples of what I'm talking about, but to keep this video short, I'll just give you one. There are groups like the Priestly Fraternity of St. Peter, who are generally regarded as very traditionalist and very strict. They've held steadfast to the old traditions and practices of the faith, and they have seen a dramatic growth in their vocations to the priesthood and their members. Meanwhile, the broader church is experiencing a crisis of vocations and a shortage of priests. In the context of Christianity, I think this makes a lot of sense. After all, the symbol of our faith is an ancient method of torture and execution, and Jesus said himself that following him would be like picking up your own cross and carrying it. Being a Christian isn't supposed to be easy. So if we continue to try to draw people in by reducing the cost of what it means to be a Christian, then we are going to continue to set people up for disappointment by a watered-down faith that does little to impact their lives. Thank you guys for watching that. If you enjoyed that, then please like it and share it and subscribe and come follow along for more content. And if you want to support the making of these videos, then please consider supporting the business that makes them possible. Holdsworth Design is a digital marketing and communications company that specializes in web design, print design, branding, videography, and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is with a special emphasis on churches and ministries as well. So if you know somebody that needs those services, then please consider passing that along to them, and check out the website, which is www.holdsworthdesign.com.